Artificial intelligence has gone from a niche technology to an everyday tool. It can help write emails, summarize meetings, generate code, and answer questions in seconds. But the next chapter of AI may be less about generating information and more about taking action.
Agentic to us is an agent that is fully automated and can make decisions on its own. If I have a prompt that I like, I can place it into an agent and I can ask that agent to run. Generative AI is where you say, hey, I need an email. Can you write this email for me? Can you review this for me?
Agentic AI is one of the biggest trends shaping the future of technology. It is designed to reason through problems, make decisions, and carry out tasks with increasingly less human involvement. The potential is enormous. New AI tools are helping employees become more productive, speeding up software development, and opening the door to entirely new ways of doing business. But with that opportunity comes big questions. How much autonomy should AI have? What risks need to be managed? And how can organizations embrace the technology while maintaining trust, security, and control?
Agentic started off as a trend. I think now you're going to see it get into a mainstream where you will start to see trust in the autonomous agents. Everyone is working to get to a point where you can trust them.
That's Panagoplos, Scotiabank's Executive Vice President and Chief Technology Officer. He joins us to discuss Agentic AI and what the future of AI could mean for banks, businesses, and everyday life.
This is a massively transitional time for technology, and what a great time to be, helping to drive something like this.
I'm Armina Lagaya, and this is Perspectives. Now, here's our conversation. Ty, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Before we get into it, about all things AI, tell us a bit about your background. How long have you been in this space, in tech?
So I hate to date myself, but I've been in technology and financial services for 30 years, starting early at Fidelity Investments in Boston, realizing that New York was the hub of everything. So I went to JP Morgan. I was there for 10 years, did watch kind of the evolution of how technology really transforms a bank. Worked in Japan, I've worked in London, I've worked in, and for the Canadians out there, London, England, not London, Ontario, Colorado, South Africa. Spent 10 years at another bank, remain unnamed here in Canada, and then Santander. So had a flavor of the Latin America world and how that relates to banking as well as Canadian world. So feel like a great fit to be here now at Scotiabank.
And to see how things have changed quite a bit over,
Completely.
A lot can change over that time, but even in the last year or so, a lot has clearly changed. So
Yes.
It's particularly rapid with AI. To me, it feels like AI is everywhere suddenly. What was it that changed in the last year or so that made it such a mainstream conversation?
It is crazy how fast it's come about. The first real rapid adoption kind of in the home world of AI was with ChatGPT right around 2022, at which point every bank that I know that I worked with shut it down as much as they possibly could. They relegated it to lab spaces. They made it very clear that it wasn't to be used in the bank and wanted to take a very slow and methodical approach. While they were doing that, the world kept moving. AI kept growing to the point where they all of a sudden realized that the benefits of it outweighed taking their time to lock it down. And so it just started to show up everywhere. And a lot of excitement got garnered around it. And now, you see it as the forefront of what all banks are talking about in terms of how their tech strategy is going to be transformed by it.
AI has been around for a while, but I'm wondering, in your view, is it just that now every person could have it at their fingertips so easily, so quickly that made it increase that comfort level? What was it that sort of turned the tide?
Yeah, so AI started off really more as machine learning. And so for machine learning, you had to have a little bit of technology knowledge. You had to know how to write Python. You had to know what you were doing in order to get it running. And ChatGPT really brought it to your fingertips. So anyone, regardless of tech skill, could type a question and answers were coming at a level of detail, knowledge, and information that they hadn't seen before. And so I think as soon as the mainstream started to understand how to use it, that's how you got it to really explode.
What, in your view, is the big opportunity for AI in banking, but also broadly?
Like anything else, with new technology, there's pros and cons, right? I think from the pros, certainly it's helping for the daily tasks, things that you don't want to do on a regular basis. And so where busy work is involved, it can do it for you. And I think we've seen that as kind of the smaller use case. In the larger use case, the amount of progress that it's enabling is incredible. The average person can sit at home and write complex capabilities, applications that they never could have even imagined writing before with a minimal skill set. Now, that goes to a point. I think that when you really get to the next level and you're looking at commercial grade or you're looking at bulletproof capabilities, then, you play the 80-20 rules. The first 80% of it builds it just fine. But if you really don't understand from an engineering perspective what's going on under the hood, I think that's where it begins to fall apart. So really where I see the value is my strong engineers, your capable technologists who really understand this space, they'll be able to deliver like 20 people. So instead of just them on their own, it'll feel like an army. Firms that are transitioning to be more engineering or to think about building a little bit more, this is going to enable a smaller group of users to be significantly more powerful.
How have you seen the use of AI evolve in banking over the years?
It's interesting. When they first got into it, there was a lot of thinking around, this is going to save us all this money. This is going to produce X, Y, and Z. And I think that I haven't seen it materially show up yet. That doesn't mean it's not going to. I still think that they're learning how to adapt it, and then they're learning how to change the way that things function in order to take advantage of it. However, in things like basic, workflow, basic process, it works really well. In development and engineering, it works really well. And I hear stories even inside of Scotiabank of people that have used Scotia Intelligence that have already been able to benefit and reduce the amount of work and effort that they're putting into things. And then the next stage of it is, okay, how does that translate into an actual savings? Which I do believe it really will. I can give you another example of a space where I have seen banks use it quite frequently is in the legal space. So contracts are complex, they're difficult, they're time consuming. AI gets through it really quickly. AI is really good at pointing out issues and errors. And I've seen adoption of it at some of the other banks that I've worked with previously to a point where it's definitely cut down on costs there, cutting down on costs, going to external counsel, and then obviously for the assisted stuff, right? So what we use today with Scotia Intelligence, the ability to do small tasks. So, for me, I wrote myself a little agent that tells me what calendar, if I see things in my calendar, do I need to go to this meeting? And it can go through my emails, it can go through my notes, it can go through everything and say, oh, well, hey, your boss actually told you to meet with them on this date. You postponed this twice, so you should probably go to that today. Versus, oh, no, this just came in off a cold call. And I've seen a lot of examples of where people have used this to make themselves way more productive.
I just wanted to go back to a point, just in case our listeners may not be familiar. What is Scotia Intelligence?
Oh, that's a great question. So Scotia Intelligence is our internally branded marketing for our entire AI platform. So today it consists of three things. One that we call Navigator, which is our assisted AI. That's what sits at your desktop today. That's what the users that we've rolled out to all the users of Scotiabank to be able to assist with daily tasks, with documentation, with helping them to write things, and really very powerful tool that goes through all of our desktop capabilities. Then we have a platform called Harbor, and that is our centralized data platform. And that is really our focus to get the data right, because when you're doing AI, it still goes by garbage in, garbage out, and we need to get the data right as we're going in. And this platform is going to give us the right data in the right way across the entire bank, which will make our AI tools much more powerful. And the third platform we've branded as Lighthouse. And what that is that is our internal AI delivery platform. That's going to allow our developers and engineers to build agents and access LLMs in a very safe and secure way, because part of that is our control plane. And our control plane is very key to being able to do AI, because without it, we're not safe and we're not secure. And this allows developers to feel comfortable that they can build what they want to build, but the guardrails will be put in around them and they won't have to be cognizant of that. And our CISOs and our security organizations control what's in the guardrails to make sure that anything that's being delivered with agents is safe and secure for the bank.
I'm going to come back to the guardrails and the risks as well. But you're talking about agents, and that's something I'd like to dig into a little bit more, because we're talking about the evolution of AI in banking, and the thing we're hearing a lot more in banking and otherwise is agentic AI. Can we start there to just explain to those who are listening, what is agentic AI in simple terms? How does that differ from generative AI?
So I think it's interesting because I think agentic was a term that started a while ago, and it gets used in different ways all the time. I can tell you how we look at it here at Scotiabank.
Mm-hmm.
So agentic to us is an agent that is fully automated and can make decisions on its own, which is something that today we do not allow because we don't have the guardrails in place, and we're not ready to trust that. Now, an agent is something that can execute a prompt over and over again. So if I have a prompt that I like, I can place it into an agent and I can ask that agent to run. Generally, anything that needs to happen, I get involved. We call that human in the loop. So when there's a human in the loop, I consider that more of an agent and a controlled agent because it can't work on its own. And I look at agentic as something that does work on its own. Generative AI, that's where you say, hey, I need an email. Can you write this email for me? Can you review this for me? And that's more the generative side. And then even when you get into the engineering and the development, writing code, you have AI that can generate code and can help make things go faster.
Mm-hmm. So true agentic is completely autonomous. It'll just do its own thing.
By our definition, right? I think different companies have different definitions, but when we refer to it at Scotiabank, we're referring to fully autonomous.
But are there levels of some agency for some of the AI deployed here, but there's human in the loop. So that's how we define it.
Correct. So when there's human in the loop, then it can't take the final action without a human looking at it and saying, okay, I agree or disagree with this approach. And that tends to be a really good safety check to make sure it's not doing something it's not supposed to do. Fully automated, going to take us a little bit of time until we can get to that point.
And this has definitely become mainstream more because I think even earlier you were talking about how you have an agent, or I know, it comes up and you're like, oh, I have an agent that does this simple tasks, yes. But it's the next level of how we can deploy AI to make things a lot easier. I wanted to delve into a related topic because Scotiabank recently announced joining up with companies to launch an AI consortium, which does also have a focus on agentic AI. Can you break that down for us in this context? What is the consortium? How does that work?
100%. So I'm going to go back to Lighthouse, which is the platform we talked about, and the concept of needing a control plane. In thinking about this, AI is a new and emerging space. Everyone is trying to tackle it all at the same time. There's a whole bunch of different technology out there. It changes on a regular basis. So this opportunity came about for us to partner with large players in two other major business lines, telco and insurance. And we thought this was a great opportunity for the three of us as founding partners to build this consortium where any of the members of the consortium can leverage the same technology. And we were able to get access to an advanced control plane well above what it would have taken us to do it ourselves. So by partnering with these other companies, it gives us the ability to give our perspective into it, to get their perspectives into it, and to really build a solid capability there. Because this is a difficult space where these are regulated entities. In the regulatory world, there's complexities to ensuring safety and security. This is going to give us a huge jump in terms of our ability to use it. There's another component of it called token exchange, which is going to kind of give us the buying power of the three large firms and any other members that eventually join, which will help us with token economics. This is going to give us the ability to not only control it, but to have a much more intelligent way of how we can leverage tokens to keep our costs in line with what we need from the AI.
And just to explain for those who might know, like a token is sort of an item currency for each usage of AI.
Yeah, I like to say that the AI companies have figured out how to bring Las Vegas here. It's a bit of a it's this made up currency that equates eventually to $1. But really it is what gets spent when you're using AI. So if you're using, more efficient, lighter models, then in theory, they're using less power and less compute. And so they cost a lot less. If you're using some of these heavier, more, deeper learning models, they're using more power, they're using more compute. So in theory, they cost more. And that's really the token is the way to measure that.
So the consortium will really help large organizations such as Scotiabank to just deal with these challenges that come with trying to roll out AI as fast as it's been going.
Exactly. And then look, we have two other partners in other industries that we can talk to about and get their thoughts and ideas and see how they're dealing with it. And so we all begin to deal with it as a one. And I think that's far more powerful. And especially today where everything's new. And so this is our way to stay on top of it. And in some ways allows us to future-proof our designs.
Let's talk a little bit more about another element with AI, which is risks. We're talking about guardrails and risks. What are some of the risks as AI advances more quickly? How do we mitigate those?
Part of the way we're mitigating them today is we're not allowing anything that we don't understand or we don't know to happen. And I think that that's the right approach when it comes to getting to the more advanced agent worlds. There's what's called poisoning, where external providers put data out there that teaches the agent the wrong thing. It takes that information. It does things it's not supposed to do. Again, by disabling automation, that one doesn't happen. When you have automation in place, you've got to make sure you have the protections. You need to have a way to control the agent and monitor the agent and look if it's doing something it's not supposed to do. You've given an agent a set of tasks you want it to do. If all of a sudden it starts to do anything outside of what we told it to do, we need an ability to stop that agent immediately. We call that a kill switch. That is part of our design. And so these are the things that we look to do to mitigate. Plus if it all of a sudden is asking a question it hasn't asked before, if it's doing any activity it hasn't done before, there's the opportunity to stop it and see why. Now, there's some cases where that may make sense given what it's supposed to do, and there are others that won't. But we will err on the side of overcaution and make sure that we're controlling it. Plus, there's the kind of perimeter monitoring that we're going to do to make sure that they don't get in or outside of our walls. The way that we're securing the environment, we're constantly evolving it. And we've built an environment that's flexible enough so that we can continually evolve it.
Another element of AI that people are nervous about are privacy, trust, scams. You're saying, misinformation poisoning. That's a new term I hadn't heard about. So that's interesting. So what of these concerns are ones we should take seriously, and what are some that are maybe overblown?
So look, I think a lot of these concerns we need to take seriously. There's fear that AI will take over people's jobs. Like any advancement that we've seen in technology, I think it'll just change people's jobs. It'll just be at a higher level, and I think more can get delivered. If you think about the other risks that are involved in it, you've got hallucination, which can generate bad information. We've seen some companies out there that produce reports that they filed formally that ended up having wrong information in them. So the human is always going to be required to mitigate that risk. To your point, the phishing schemes, in the early days where you put up false websites, it was quite obvious that it was a bad website, but now it'd be really easy to do that. So, we just have to keep upping our game as the bad actors up their game. But we need to make sure that we're able to defend ourselves. We're able to be, able to block some of these things, but do it in a safe way.
Let's shift a bit more to a broader look at AI. It's a fast evolving space. What else is happening out there on the AI front that we should be talking about now? What's the next wave?
I'm not sure there's a bunch of new trends that are out there, but I would see the advancement of the ones that have started, right? So certainly the usage of the Claudes and the Codexes and the various tools have increased dramatically. So we're beginning to see, a shift in who can actually deliver code. You're seeing every vendor out there starting to put AI somewhere in their platform just so they can say they have it. You're seeing a shift of companies that are now building things that they never would have built before, which is actually threatening some of the ecosystem that has previously been out there that was fairly embedded. And so I think that trend you're going to see more of. And I'm starting to get a sense of it in talking to colleagues at other banks. They're getting bolder in terms of what they think they can do internally versus externally. So I think you'll see a bit of that. I think the next big thing is, agentic started off as a trend. I think now you're going to see it get into a mainstream where you will start to see trust in the autonomous agents. Everyone is working to get to a point where you can trust them because that will be quite powerful. So we're seeing that. Then there's the frontier models, which poses a whole different type of challenge, which is a trend in how attackers can think about ways to attack at a speed and a rate that we've not seen before.
And then how do you prepare for things like frontier models? How do you prepare for that as well?
So from the frontier model space, we've been involved very deeply in making sure that our bank is safe and secure from the model. We stay in close touch with the companies that are out there. And we have a program that is well established where we're making sure that we're following the protocol of other banks. We've partner with our colleagues to find out what's going on. And we don't share secrets, but we certainly share enough to help each other to be protected there. And so I think we're doing everything to stay on top of it. As I said before, it is key to understand what's going on. We can't just sit back and say, "Oh, I'll wait for the next thing." We've got to stay on top of everything that's coming out. And there'll be the next frontier model. There'll be the next problem. So I wouldn't even tie it to a single model. We just have to change our approach, and our defenses start to become offenses as we look at how we're constantly monitoring our environments, constantly proactively looking for issues and capabilities, and challenging ourselves to think about where are other areas that things could be risky. And the other thing that's really useful is there's a lot of information out there now. So it's easier to understand where things are going wrong. And as soon as we catch that, we immediately look to remediate inside of our environment in case there's a potential similar vulnerability.
So my last question is, looking ahead 3 or 5 years, what AI shift do you think is going to have the biggest impact on everyday people?
So I actually think it's going to be the fully autonomous agent. So I think that's going to be a big change. And again, it's also how I see it based on what I see today. But in this world, it is changing so rapidly that predicting 5 years out, I can't even imagine what to predict for 5 years out. I think the most important thing is to stay flexible. So in order to be prepared for what's coming 5 years out, make sure that you don't, push yourself into an area, a platform, a capability that you can't easily transition from, because we don't know what will be out there. And I think that, we've seen, and you asked me earlier on, why is it happening so rapidly? I think AI begets more AI, and we are seeing that it is partially the speed of the AI that's making the benefit of AI faster. And, companies are leapfrogging each other because they're able to leverage their own technology to figure out a better way to do it than the other guy. And then the other guy does the same thing. So for us, it's really about staying massively flexible so that we can always leverage best in capability. But to your question, I think that, when agents are doing things, that's going to change things. Now, personal life, we're starting to see the emergence of robots. Me personally, I don't want a robot in my house with cameras and the ability to do anything. So I'm not sure I'll jump on that trend. But you see the robotic cars. People with driverless cars now much more frequently. I've tripped over the robot deliveries. So I do think we'll see a lot more autonomous things happening. And it's going to be an interesting time. And it's, for me personally, it's part of why I'm so excited to be here. This is a massively transitional time for technology, and what a great time to be, helping to drive something like this.
I think that's a really good place to leave it. Thank you so much for coming on the show and breaking it all down for us.
Thank you very much for having me.
I've been speaking with Ty Panagoplos, Scotiabank's Executive Vice President and Chief Technology Officer. The Perspectives podcast is made by Ryan Clark, Natalie Nanowski, Ned Kelly, and me, Armina Lagaya. For a transcript of this episode, as well as other stories, videos, insights, and thought leadership, visit our website, scotiabank.com/perspectives. We'll see you next time.